Hello, and welcome to How to Run a Tall Tales contest. My name is Marcie Gansler, and I'm the 2017-2018 District 93P Director. As you may know, this fall, District 93P will be hosting the Tall Tales speech contest in both English and Korean. The only problem with running these two contests is that many people do not actually know what a tall tale is. Therefore, in this presentation, I will explain to you what a tall tale is before explaining the basics of running the actual contest. We'll talk about the eligibility requirements for both speakers and judges at the club level, and then we'll run through some questions that come up often during the club level contest. Finally, I'll leave you with some resources that will hopefully help you to get you through this contest season. Shall we begin? First of all, exactly what is a tall tale? Well, it's simpler than you think. A tall tale is a story that has been greatly exaggerated and is told as though it were a factual event. That's it. But what does that look like exactly? Well, let's imagine you're going to meet your friend for lunch today. Let's call him Bob. You know that Bob is going to ask about your fishing trip last week. You know, the one you were so excited to go on and that you bragged about for weeks. The only problem is, the only fish you caught, well, he kind of looked like this. As cute as he is, that little guy doesn't make for an impressive story, right? And even if you caught a fish that looked like this, it's still just a normal fish. Since you want to impress Bob and make him really jealous of your awesome story, when you tell the story, you'll probably add some details to embellish the size of your fish, right? You might exaggerate a bit, and by a bit, I mean that by the time you tell Bob the story, that tiny fish you actually caught has somehow become as large as the boat itself. You'll tell Bob about the fight of your life, trying to reel that fish on board your boat, how he dragged your boat around the lake not once, but 5 times, how your fishing rod nearly cracked in half under his weight, which you modestly estimate as being as much as one of those blue flatbed bongo trucks, and how after you finally wrestled him into the boat, you looked him in the big fishy eye that was as large as a semi-truck tire, and were struck with sympathy for the giant beast. So you let him go. Now that's a story. So what makes a tall tale a tall tale? When we are telling a tall tale, we use hyperbole. Everyone, repeat after me. Hyperbole. Hyperbole is when we exaggerate things and make statements or claims that are not meant to be taken literally. But the key to a tall tale is that, when telling the story, no matter how exaggerated you make it, no matter how unbelievable the details are, you tell them as though they were fact. Let me emphasize that. You tell the story as though it really happened. And the best tall tales start with a kernel of truth, before quickly becoming, quite literally, larger than life. The best example of a tall tale that I can think of is the story of Paul Bunyan. Paul Bunyan was a gigantic lumberjack, and by gigantic, I mean that by the time he was only 1 week old, he was wearing his father's clothes. As a child, he had to eat 40 bowls of porridge just to be satisfied with his meal. He also had a companion, a large blue ox known as Babe. It's said that Paul and Babe grew to be so large that, while playing with each other, the tracks they left behind them created the famous 10,000 lakes in Minnesota. Oh yeah, that's something I forgot to mention. Tall tales often, not always, but often, explain how certain natural things came to be, such as how giant lakes were formed, or how mountains came to be located in certain places. They're like modern-day myths, stories that explain how natural phenomena came to be. Anyway, Paul Bunyan is a fantastic example of a tall tale. Look him up when you have the chance. So how do we run a tall tales contest? Who can compete? And who can judge? What kinds of information must we know in order to make sure that our club contest is the best it can be? The first thing you have to know is that all of the information I'm going to tell you today comes directly from the, drumroll please, Speech Contest Rulebook. You can download it for free from the Toastmasters website. Just search for Speech Contest Rulebook. Please make sure you read the rulebook before running the contest. Please read the rulebook. I promise, it'll answer almost all of your questions. So who is eligible to compete in the Tall Tales contest? Well, first of all, you must be a paid member of a club, and that club must be in good standing. Good standing means that at the most recent renewal period, Your club paid for at least 8 members, and of those 8, at least 3 of them were renewing members from the previous membership period. Don't forget, you must remain eligible at all levels of the contest. Our next membership renewal deadline is October 1st. That means that if you make it past the club and area contests, which should take place in August and September respectively, but your club doesn't renew the minimum number of members on October 1st, well, you'll be ineligible to compete in October at the division contest, unless your club renews members before the contest date. Additionally, don't forget that you cannot be a rule taker at a contest in which you are competing. I feel like that's pretty obvious, but it's clearly stated in the rulebook, so I guess I should mention it here. Finally, keep in mind that, at the club level, it's okay to compete in the contest and be a chief judge or voting judge at a different club's contest. However, once you get past the club level and into the area contest, you can't be competing and judging. Let me give you an example. My home club is Yoito Toastmasters. I can compete in Yoito's English Tall Tales contest, and I can be the chief judge of Hongdae Toastmasters English Tall Tales contest. And I can be a voting judge in Bundang's, Seoul's, and Hyundai's English contests as well. That's fine. But if I win Yoito's club contest and move on to the Area 20 contest, I can't be a judge at Area 33's contest. That would be a conflict of interest. However, if Area 20's contest is before Area 33's, and if I lose, then I can be a judge for Area 33 because I will no longer be competing. Does that make sense? Actually, that's kind of a weird example because as a district officer, I can't compete at all, but I think you get the idea. So now that we've finished discussing contestant eligibility, let's talk about speech contest procedure. First, remember that the contest chairperson should schedule the briefing with the contestants. During this time, the contestant order will be chosen. Please remember that the order is always random, not alphabetical, not based on when a speaker can arrive to the meeting, not based on height. It must be random. If a speaker cannot make it to the briefing, that's okay. The contest chairperson can randomly assign their speaking order. However, they must be in the room before the contest chairperson is introduced at the meeting. At that time, the contest officially begins. During the contest, the contestants will be introduced with their name, the title of their speech again, and their name. No other comments should be added. After each speaker is finished, there is a moment of silence to allow the judges to finish tallying their ballots. The contest chairperson should not make any comments regarding the speech, not even an encouraging, "Wow, that was a great speech." Simply remind the audience about the moment of silence and have the timer time it. This is to try to limit any bias for the judges. Don't forget that after the final speaker has spoken, there should be silence until all of the ballots have been collected by the ballot counters and the chief judge, and they have left the room. Once the results have been calculated, the winners will be announced. Now this is very important. If there were 5 or more contestants, then 3 winners, first, second, and third place, will be announced. However, if there were 4 or fewer contestants, only first and second place will be announced. Now I know you're thinking, but Marcie, even though there were only 4 contestants, why can't we announce third place? Well, I want you to imagine that you're in a contest with 4 contestants, and the 3 other people were announced as first, second, and third. Now everybody knows who got last. It was you. How would you feel? Exactly. This was basic speech contest procedure. But what about the Tall Tales contest specifically? Well, just like with any other speech contest or project, there are time limits. The Tall Tales speech is 3 to 5 minutes long, plus or minus a 30-second grace period. That means that a qualified speech can be anywhere between 2 minutes and 30 seconds to 5 minutes and 30 seconds. The green card goes up at the 3-minute mark and stays up for the duration of the minute. At the 4-minute mark, the yellow card is raised and stays up until 5 minutes, and at the 5-minute mark, the red card is raised and remains up until the speaker finishes. Please remind your timers to hold the card for the duration of the entire minute. It's really important for the speaker. The Tall Tales speech itself is a story that is highly exaggerated. Remember that from earlier, right? And of course, like any speech or story, it should have a theme. If there's no theme, it's not a story. Finally, props. Props may be used, but they should always be set up by the speaker or someone the speaker has enlisted to help in the minute of silence prior to the start of their speech. The contest chairperson does not have to help the speaker set up their props, nor should they feel obligated to. The contest chairperson has way more important things to do, like run the contest. Contestants should also demonstrate to the chairperson that they can set up and take down their props in the minute preceding and following their speech, or else it is a breach of the rules. So, props are okay, as long as they can be easily set up and taken down. So we've talked about contestant eligibility and contest procedure. Now what about judges? In order to be a judge at the club level contest, you must be a paid member of a club. That's it. No other qualifications necessary at the club level. Once we get beyond the club level, it gets a little more complicated. But for now, don't worry. You just have to be a member. Don't forget that at the club level, you need to have a contest chair, chief judge, at least 5 voting judges, a tie-breaking judge, 3 ballot counters, and 2 timers. Unless it's impractical. That means that if you can only find 4 judges, it's not the end of the world. It's going to be okay. Just take a deep breath and calm down. Voting judges should also try to remain anonymous for as long as possible. Don't walk in the room and proclaim that you're a judge, and don't go up to the contestants or anyone, for that matter, after the contest and tell them that you were a judge. Trust me, you want to try to remain anonymous. The reason is simple. Sometimes people get angry when they lose. When they get angry, they tend to take it out on the people who were judging. Trust me, keep your anonymity for as long as possible. And of course, the chief judge will brief the voting judges, ballot counters, and timers before the start of the contest. Assign certain judges to each ballot counter. I've found that it helps to give each ballot counter pictures of the judges, or have them at the briefing so they can see who they are assigned to. The only person who shouldn't be at the briefing is the tie-breaking judge. Before the contest, the chief judge will appoint someone to be the tie-breaking judge, and will give them the special tie-breaking judge's ballot. The identity of the tie-breaking judge should only be known to the chief judge. The chief judge will collect their ballot personally and only look at it if there is a tie. Here's the judging criteria for the Tall Tales contest. You'll notice that there are 3 categories: content, delivery, and language. Toastmasters International suggests that content count for 30% of the score, delivery for 55%, and language for 15%. You might ask, why is content so much lower than delivery? Well, think about it. A tall tale is a story relying on extreme exaggeration. We can add to the story by employing body language, facial expressions, and vocal variety. So delivery is super important in the Tall Tales contest. Make sure that the judges familiarize themselves with the ballot beforehand, because it is different from the other contests. Speaking of the ballot, here it is. This is the voting judges' ballot. You can download it for free from the Toastmasters website. Don't forget to remind your judges to both sign and print their names on the bottom, to write the names of the top 3 speakers in the spaces allotted, and to detach their ballot and give it to the ballot counters. It is especially important that they sign and print their name on their ballot, elsewise it won't be counted. And here's the tie-breaking ballot. Can you see what's different from the voting judges' ballots? You're right! Instead of just writing the top 3 speakers, like the voting judges do, the tie-breaking judge must place all of the contestants. Let's look at it closer. The voting judge's ballot is on top, and the tie-breaking judge's ballot is the bottom image. See the difference? Please make sure that the chief judge knows this too. You can also download the certificates from the TMI website for free. I'll include the link at the end of this presentation. They have certificates of participation and for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place. After the contest is finished, the chief judge needs to write all of the contestants on the notification of contest winners sheet to pass it on to the next level. They must write the placement of every contestant unless they were disqualified for time, originality, or eligibility, and their contact information. Why should they write down everyone? Well, what if the 1st place person is unable to compete in the area contest? Then the area contest chairperson should contact the 2nd place person. And if they can't compete, then the 3rd place person. And then the 4th place person, and so on. So you can see why they need everyone's information. And that's it. How to run a speech contest. Simple, right? Maybe. I promise it's easier than you think. Now let's move on to some questions that will probably come up. First question. Do we have to have a club contest? What do you think? The answer is no. Clubs can choose how their representative is chosen. a contest is the fairest way, especially if you have a lot of people who want to participate. However, if no one wants to participate or compete, then the club doesn't have to have a contest. The club can choose their area contest representative however they want. From the area level, however, a contest must be held. But at the club level, it is not mandatory. To compete in the club contest, should I have completed 6 projects in the CC manual? What do you think? The answer may surprise you. The answer is no. The 6-project rule is only applicable for the International Speech Contest. This is the Tall Tales Contest, so it's okay. Not required. I'm competing in my club's English Tall Tales Contest. Can I be the chief judge for the club Korean contest too? The answer is yes, because the English contest and the Korean contest are 2 separate contests, so it's completely okay. I'm a member of both ABC Toastmasters in Area 23 and 123 Toastmasters in Area 24. Can I compete in both clubs' English contests? What do you think? Of course it's okay. As a dual member, it's your right to participate in both club contests. However, if you win both contests, you must choose which area you want to compete in. You can't compete in both, so choose wisely. The next question. I'm the chief judge for my club contest. Can I bring in judges from outside of my club? Of course you can. Remember, at the club level, the only requirement is that your judges be paid members of Toastmasters International. But beware. If you suddenly bring in 5 Toastmasters from outside of your club, chances are everyone will know exactly who all of the judges are. You've been warned. At the club contest, do all of the judges have to be from outside of the club? Of course not. In fact, I prefer to have a mix of people from inside and outside of the club. It gives you a wider perspective. What if I can't find 5 people to be judges at my club contest? Well, that's easy. Do you remember what we said earlier? You need 5 judges unless it's impractical. The more judges, of course, the fairer the contest, theoretically. If you only have 3 judges, then you're only getting 3 opinions. 5 is better. Conversely, are you limited to 5 judges? No, you can have more than 5 judges. It's up to you. But I personally think the more the merrier. Can a speaker be disqualified for stepping off of the stage? I bet this one will shock you. The answer? No. Speakers can be disqualified for their time if they do not meet the eligibility requirements or if their speech is not substantially original. They cannot be disqualified for stepping outside of the speaking area. Judges can mark them down, of course, but they cannot be outright disqualified. Just in case you need it for reference, here's the section from the Speech Contest Rulebook that details protests and disqualifications. See? They're limited to eligibility and originality. Nothing about speaking area. Finally, how many people can advance from our club to the area contest? Well, what do you think? The district leadership team has already decided that areas that have 4 or fewer clubs in good standing may have 2 representatives from each club at the area contest. And if you charter a new club in the area prior to the area contest, you can still have 2 contestants from each club. Don't worry. So, which areas qualify? Well, as of now, areas 11 and 12 in Division A have 4 or fewer clubs in good standing. In Division B, it's 21, 31, and 34. Areas 51 and 60 in Division C have 4 or fewer clubs, and in D, it's 33 and 41. Just for your information. This has been updated to reflect the new alignment of our clubs and areas. And with that, my presentation is finished. Wow! We learned what a tall tale is, who is eligible to compete and be a judge at the club level, and some of the logistics involved in running a club contest. We also considered some common scenarios regarding the club contest. I hope that this has been helpful for you. And don't forget about these resources. You have many available resources to help you as you plan your club contest. First and foremost, don't forget, read the Speech Contest Rulebook. It will help you, I promise. You can see some good tutorials here, including judges training. Download the certificates, ballots, and notification forms online from the TMI website. They're free. Here are some examples of famous tall tales, just for reference. Finally, don't forget that your district officers are always available to help as well. You only need to ask. Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation. I hope that it's been helpful for you. Again, I'm Marcie Gansler, and this has been everything you need to know about the Tall Tales contest. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you at the contest.